I'm a strong believer that in 2026, having a good organized customer database is by far like one of the top things a restaurant can do outside of getting your brand known on social media. Like, you have to have that customer database, you have to have that information, because in 2026, going into the AI stuff and everything like that, that's kind of what everything is going to rely on if you want to be pertinent. We are here today on 86 Opinions with my man Cory Pringle, who is rocking the Eat Good Local food reviewer, food critic, restaurant marketer from the South Bend, Indiana area. And if you're not following this man on social media, you are in for a treat today. You're going to make sure you follow him by the end of the episode, because this dude, if you want to talk about stopping the scroll and actually getting some attention into your restaurant, this man knows how to do it. So without further ado, Cory, my man, what's the good word today, dude?
Hey man, how you doing? Appreciate you having me on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate having you. I know you and I have gone back and forth, but I think for the last few years we kind of been talking, but we never really had a chance to hook it up, have we?
Yeah, this is kind of like the first time. I remember like when I first got started, you
Yeah,
kind
so
of like,
I'm absolutely looking forward to it, man. You and I have been chopping it up for the last few years and always been trying to make something like this happen. And it just kind of seems like, obviously, in the restaurant world, things get busy. But I follow your content, man, and you do a bang up job. When I say like you're one of the favorite influencers that I follow, man, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So why restaurants, and what got you into the food review critic role?
restaurants. I guess I just like eating more or less, and I kind of grew up in that era where you had Man versus Food. That was real popular. It was a couple of other shows, but that's the only name that comes to mind though. And so I just kind of like always watched the Food Network, enjoyed food, and then kind of like what happened was I was doing music videos, weddings, documentaries, that sort of thing. But I kind of wasn't really fulfilled necessarily from doing it. And I got a coach, and kind of he worked with me, and he kind of helped me to like niche down, so to speak, and like hone into what I really enjoyed the most. And for whatever reason, food seemed to come up the most. And so that's kind of like how that got started.
So you were in the media game pretty big before you got into the social media influencer stuff then.
Yeah, I was already shooting music videos, weddings, documentaries, short films, things of that nature. Really anything that kept me behind the camera, but I just wasn't known for like one thing necessarily. So,
Right
yeah.
on. Yeah, that's cool. I like that, man. So what have you realized, or when did you realize that doing this influencer thing and actually going out there and highlighting restaurants in your community was actually making a difference for restaurants? Describe that kind of adventure for us.
I guess the moment I realized that it was adding value to restaurants was when they started telling me that, that they sold out. I have had some that was on the verge of closing, and they said that, the review helped turn things around, and got the mayor to come out, and the city involved. So when I started getting comments, that's when I knew that it actually worked.
And that's a big thing within a local community, man. When you can highlight a place and get a place that much attention to actually turn a place around that's struggling like that, that's got to feel good, huh?
Yeah, it definitely feels good when you can get the community to come out and to support a local business. You know, it is a blessing. It is amazing. Can't honestly really describe that. The feeling is honestly kind of humbling. Honestly, a lot of times when I have these conversations with some of the restaurant owners, a lot of times very emotional, so to speak.
Kind of give us, you don't have to name any names of restaurants or anything if you don't want to, depending on how that whole thing like turned out, but kind of just give us a story of kind of like what was kind of one of the most moving experiences you had with a restaurant. Real,
Moving,
real case, real world example.
I can't really think of one per se, like an emotional one, but I will say like the first restaurant that I know that I had an impact on that was kind of crazy was I'm not like good with my Spanish, so forgive me, but I would try to pronounce the restaurant, but it's called
Let's get it, boy. Let's get it.
Salento Yeah, it's called Salento Lindo. I hope I got that right. But I
All right.
came there and did a review. I actually just went there just like try the food and I did end up doing a review, making a video, and I came back like on my birthday because the food was good. Like I really enjoyed. They had this baked potato, and when I came back, they was like, "Oh my god, thank you for the review." It was crazy. They was like, They said all of the tables in the restaurant was filled. They said that the waiting area was packed, and then they said that DoorDash and Uber Eats was so overwhelming that they had to shut it off. And then on top of
There it
that, they
is.
said that they had a line of cars wrapped around the block. And I just can't even imagine all of that chaos happening at a restaurant at one time. When they told me that,
Yeah.
I was just like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that had to have been a sweet ass moment. They get that like Keith Lee effect kind of going on for yourself. Huh?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think that's kind of like that was like the first restaurant that I had like heard something like that. And then I would probably say after that I would get like more emotional ones. But that was like the first restaurant that I actually went back to and the owner told me like how crazy of an impact that it was and how appreciative of of it that that they got the exposure more or less that people came in.
How many restaurants would you say you've probably reviewed, highlighted, been to online? What's the number we're working with here?
I don't know, probably a couple hundred, maybe more. Like I kind of lost track. Well, I don't really. I mean, I only say I lost track. I don't even really keep track per se, like in terms of numbers. Like my goal is like every year is just to go out and support as many local restaurants as I possibly can. Sometimes that may be 20, that may be 50, who knows? Like, but I don't really necessarily keep like an accurate count, but I do have like Google Maps and that sort of thing that I put the restaurants in, but I'm not like physically keeping count. Like I'm on 999. No, I just
I
eat.
got you. Hey, nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that at all. So you got a couple hundred restaurants underneath your belt. You've been doing this for a while now. What year did you start?
What year did I start? I think probably in like 20. I think probably I want to feel like soon as like the pandemic, like that whole thing, like when they lifted that, I think that's like when I really got started. So yeah.
So you came in at a really good time too, because that's kind of when I know TikTok was around well before that, but that's kind of when TikTok kind of really grabbed a foothold and really took off. Was like kind of the tail end of the pandemic, right? Especially
And
for restaurants.
I I feel like I got in on the whole TikTok era just a little bit too late. Like I should have got in like doing like the heat, the heart of COVID when people was like locked in, because that's when people was like really watching TikTok. But I mean, at the same time, though, being that I do food content, I wasn't really going to restaurants like that anyway. That was just a really good time. Like when you hear people talk about a good time to like, when you should have purchased the stock or got into the stock market, when the dip, so to speak, not when it's
There it
high. You
is.
want to
Yeah.
buy when it's low, not when it's high. So that's kind of how I think about TikTok. I should have got in really um in that era. But nonetheless, though, it's I still got in, like you say, at a pretty decent time.
Sure. I love the analogy that you used with that actually, because how you talked about, buying low in the stock market, yada, yada, yada. A lot of restaurants, I feel, this is my kind of a personal opinion, a lot of restaurants don't understand that this whole social media marketing game is nothing more than the supply and demand of attention online, right? And you can get into those where people are putting their attention before other restaurants get in front of the attention, you're going to blow up just a little bit better. And that's kind of what you're talking about when you talk about buy at the dip. Buy at the dip, get into platforms at the dip of the attention and kind of get your momentum rolling. Does that
Yeah.
make sense how I'm
Yes.
describing that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like that whole trend thing with the margarita, when the owner be like, "Oh, what's that? Oh my god!" And then they pick it up and show you, "Oh, it's the margarita." That
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
that
yeah,
trend.
yeah, like the
You know,
viral trends, they all have that attention span, the ebbs and the flows for sure.
Yeah, like once that trend happens, you probably like the first 5, 10 restaurants on it could capitalize on it and get some good views. After that, people like, nah, you're just copying. So, you got to
Yeah.
get in on the
Yeah.
right time,
Yeah. It's like that dude that took a red paper clip and traded up until he had a house. You ever hear about that?
No, actually,
This
I
was like,
haven't.
man, this was like back in like the early days of the internet, bro. And this dude like had a little red or blue paper clip, and he traded it for like a pencil, then the pencil for a calculator, and eventually he was just kept trading up, and he was able to trade all the way up to owning a house. We started with a little paper clip, and you look at that and you're like, man, that's a great idea. But then once somebody's done it, you and I can't replicate that now because we're just copying, right? So
Right.
that's kind of the way some of them trends work.
Yeah.
You've helped numerous restaurants. You've been out on the grind. You've been on the streets doing this with restaurants, food trucks, everything in between. What have you noticed as far as patterns of posts as what differentiates a post that actually hits or a post that kind of flops? What do you kind of think is a differentiating factor there
I think
for
it's a
restaurants?
I think it's a few different elements that go into making a good post for a restaurant. And I think the main one is just like with anything with marketing, it's just having a good, strong, solid hook. And when I say hook in terms of food, you know, if you're, for instance, making like a really big burger, the hook, the first part of the video should be, showing how big that burger is, and then going into the making of it. But I feel like the biggest thing though is when restaurants create content, whether it's a photo, a video, and then nowadays with especially using AI, is like if you put it out on your social media account, the customer is expecting that food to look like essentially like what they saw on social media. So I know a lot of times I've worked with restaurants and they'll be like, add another patty or extra few pieces of meat into that plate. And I tell them, like, if you don't actually serve it like that, please don't do that, because when you post it on social media, that's what people come in and they expect that, and they'll call, and if you don't, and if you don't get that, they gonna call you out on that, and they gonna be
Mm-hmm.
disappointed. So it's not even worth it. Like if you serve a skimpy burger, just go on, just let that's the reality of it. But don't put two extra patties on there trying to make it look pretty, because it's gonna do you more harm than it'll do you good.
Yeah, and that's interesting. How do you feel about AI in restaurants? Like, do you think there's a place for it?
I definitely think it's a place for AI with restaurants, especially if restaurants don't really have like a really huge budget for marketing. If they utilize it essentially correctly, then I think it could have a really strong impact on the restaurant. So, for example, like a lot of restaurants not really that good with taking photos. So, if you got an iPhone, or just in general, just a pretty good, decent phone, and nowadays that's everybody, you set your plate of food up next to like the window so you can get some good natural light, and you take that photo and then you import that photo into, let's say, like Chat GPT. And if you have a good prompt, and you say, make this photo cinematic, or, just it just depends on what type of restaurant you have. But if you have a pretty good, decent prompt, you can get a good result. Even if you just said just adjust the lighting. Using AI
Yeah.
is really all about the prompts, but you can take your mediocre photos and ChatGPT can enhance it. Not necessarily the food per se, but just the lighting and different things. Or maybe it's the image quality. Maybe your photo is a little bit pixelated. AI could, enhance that. A graphic designer could do a lot of the same things, but you know, that's just be real. ChatGPT is $20 a month. Graphic designer may
That's
be,
it.
a couple hundred, 500, 1,000, depending on the level in which they are. So I think AI definitely does have its place within the restaurant community, and I think all owners should try to utilize it as much as possible.
Yeah, I think learning AI and learning how to use it correctly is probably the best thing that any small business owner, restaurants and food trucks included, can do right now to enhance their business. Because Whether you like it, whether I like it, whether anybody likes it or not, this wave is coming. It's going to leave. I truly believe it's going to leave a lot of people who aren't prepared for it into the dust. And that's a whole nother podcast conversation right there. The way that you describe to use it to, use it as a collaborator and to enhance what you have, not to create the actual photo, right?
Yeah, correct.
That's money right there. When you look at these little patterns in the videos and restaurants are doing well and they kind of get this opportunity to go quote unquote viral, and sometimes for restaurants, virality doesn't have to be on a national basis. Virality on a local basis is much better for a restaurant than a national basis, in my opinion. But when a
Mhm.
restaurant does go viral, like you were talking about that Mexican joint that you hooked up in your early on in your adventures, what are kind of some of the things that happen after that flash in the pan comes and they get that exposure? What are ways that restaurants can maintain and carry that exposure with them rather than letting it fall off? Does that make sense? Am I asking that right?
Yeah. The ways, well, the only thing that you really can do after you essentially go viral and to kind of keep that momentum, so to speak, you really just have to focus on making a good quality product, not skimping on like ingredients and that different things, like essentially trying to cut corners. Because like essentially like some restaurants, right, they will go viral, and then now that they go viral, now they try to switch the meat, or they try to switch the different ingredients to try to like save money or to most make more money, once it isn't a good route. Having that good customer service, really focusing on customer service, and making sure that every customer has the same experience across the board. Not saying I come in today and I have a 10 out of 10 experience, and you come in the next day and you have a 3 out of 10 experience. Making sure things are consistent across um, the board. So
The,
yeah.
the key word consistency, man. I think if you own and operate a restaurant or food truck, like not even in just your social media marketing, how you make your hamburgers, how you operate each day, how you order your food, everything has a system behind it, right? And that consistency is really key when it comes to all of that stuff.
Yeah. And you are definitely right about it. And unfortunately, like I think that's what like a lot of mom and pop restaurants they kind of miss it, is that they don't have a system in place. So, like for example, one restaurant, the one cook, or he may make the burger one way, and then the next person behind him may make it a totally different way. And a lot of times, it's not even really their fault necessarily. A lot of times, it really falls on the owner not having like an SOP in place on how they want certain things made. And then sometimes owners are not chefs. A lot of times, some owners are just like numbers focused. Like, I got an opportunity to buy this restaurant. It came up for sale. I don't know anything about cooking, anything about food, but the numbers look good. So I'm just going to buy it. Right. And then the chef that's in there, he's in charge of like the recipes. Maybe now that the owner that came in and purchased it, they clash. So now he leaves. Now this person who don't know anything about the restaurant industry, he now doesn't have recipes, because those recipes now just walked out the door with that chef that he had, because they don't have like they don't have the recipes. They don't have a standard procedure on how things should be made. So, and I think that restaurants need to fall. They not fall, but they need to put more systems in place and get recipes and SOPs in place. That way that everything is the same across the board, and no matter who steps in and step out, the customer is going to get that same experience.
Yeah, dude, you are not wrong, man. So I think one of the things that surprises me the most when I talk to restaurant owners, and I actually owned a restaurant food truck catering company back in the day, and that's kind of what took me into the whole marketing side of restaurants. However, it absolutely amazes me how many restaurant owners I actually talk to that don't have any idea what their actual food cost is for that plate of food they're sending out, right? And I don't understand how restaurants even think that they're going to survive when they don't even know how much that hamburger and that plate all the way down to the napkin and the utensil that I'm giving you, how much that actually cost me. Pricing is just kind of screehawed, and that hurts them when they don't have that consistency in the SOP, just like you're talking about. Because the flip side of that, the other side that you get with a restaurant owner is you get the people like me, because I'm guilty of this right here, where I was like, man, I make some banging barbecue. I should open a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so, if you could take those two people, the numbers guy and the dude that just makes good food, and combine them together, that's what you
Yeah.
need, right? You need both of
Right.
those to work harmoniously together, I think.
Totally agree.
So, what do you think, going back to the whole viral conversation, what do you think is the most misunderstood thing about going viral?
I think it kind of goes back to like some of the things that we talked about is that like the misunderstood part is that like once you go, I don't want to say it's easy to go viral, but it kind of is easy to go viral to a certain extent. And then once you go viral, if you don't have the things that we had that we talking about, the systems in place, SOPs, the properly training, the customer service is on point, essentially making sure that every customer has that experience across the board. What happens when you go viral, the virality only amplifies the problem 1,000 or 1,000,000 times worse. So if you have been told a couple times DM like, hey, I've been to your restaurant and the waitress wasn't quite nice to me, or the food wasn't quite as hot as I would like it to be, whatever those issues that you get, because restaurant owners, I'm telling you right now, they get these messages all the time in their DM. Whether or not they want to reply to them or acknowledge them is another story, but they get them. So when you go viral, all of that million, 2,000,000, 100,000 views that you got is just gonna amplify the situation a lot worse. So it's like I don't even I don't want to say I question restaurants that want to go viral, but it's like if I go to your Google reviews and I'm not like the first 10, 20 review, Google reviews is not good. If people not saying good stuff about you in Reddit, if they not saying good stuff about you in the Facebook group, if you go viral, your feelings is gonna get really, really hurt.
Man, you are not joking. I just had that conversation with a restaurant out in Arizona, and it was like, if we're going to implement systems to make customers come back, if you're telling me that you want more business for your restaurant, you better make sure that your operations side and everything is in check, because more customers are just going to amplify your problems, right?
Right.
The restaurant owners that are doing everything right, and and they don't have those issues, they have all those systems in check, their operations are good, their food is good, they got everything going good, those are the restaurants that are actually ready for virality and ready for growth, in my opinion. Because just like you said, if your systems are broken, getting more customers is just going to expose it.
Yeah. This is gonna
and,
become a
and that's
bigger.
not how restaurants want to be exposed, right? That's not how you want to be exposed when you own a business. That's what you shouldn't be at that point anymore. Do you notice a lot of restaurants trying to chase virality?
I've had quite a few reach out to me and they like, hey, what does it take to go viral? Can I hire you to just make me go viral? And I'm like, it don't quite really work the way that you think it would work. Because I mean, unless it's different if you know what it takes to go viral and you can create the content and you know about the hooks and how the algorithm and different things work. If you know about that, then you can chase it. But if you have to pay another individual or a company or agency to come in, the cost to have them to do it is going to outweigh the money. And then one, you have to ask, what does virality mean? Like, because that means different things to different restaurants. Do you mean like when you say viral, do you mean you want 1,000,000 views or 100,000 views or more? Do you mean you want $1,000,000 in your bank account? Like, can you like you kind of ask those questions because that kind of means different things to different people. Because to me, like I would say 100,000 views or more would be viral. But I have had a restaurant would say like 10,000 views across all platforms on the video is going viral. And I would not say that. So, that means different things to different people. And
For
so,
sure.
like, I think that you have to ask that question. Like, if they reach out and say, "Hey, I want to go viral," then let's can we explore that? Can you break that what that means to you? But yeah,
Because if you're in South Bend, Indiana, and you go viral for a hamburger, what's good does it do for a dude in Miami to see it, right? Because
right.
he's not going to be there to buy your burger in South Bend. He might know somebody. There's ways there that it can track down, and he might know somebody in South Bend. I get all that. To kind of go off what you were saying, like I can see like if I had a restaurant, say maybe in a small town, and I only had like 2-3 thousand people in my town, and I got 10,000 local views within like 100-mile radius, I could
Yeah.
consider that being viral for myself, I guess. Just to play devil's advocate on that, I could see that.
Yeah.
I think for restaurants to chase followers and to chase virality is not where you want to be. I would much rather have a restaurant that has 600 to 1,000 absolute local loyal followers that are going to be there and follow me and come see me and eat at my place uh, loyally than I would to have, 10,000, 15, 20,000, or a million followers on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, because I can take those 600 to 1,000 customers and I can target market with them to get them to keep coming back and to get people to come back in for me, right? Through like SMS, email follow-ups, customer databases, VIP clubs. Do you dabble in that type of stuff at all with restaurants, or are you strictly kind of on the influencer side and advertising?
No, I dabble with that. How I used to do a lot when I first got started. This was like before it was like a little bit more easier to scam the followers. I kind of got away from it, but I would go into a restaurant, I would do the review, then after I did the review, I would run an ad behind that within like a 2 to 3 mile radius of the restaurant. Then after that, about a few days later, I would do a giveaway with the restaurants, and then we would run a ad behind that, and then with running that ad, I would have mini chat connected to that ad, and then I would collect cell phone numbers, email addresses, and zip codes, and if you wanted to participate in the giveaway, then we had to get that information, and then that's how we would essentially choose a winner. And so that's kind of like some of the ways I would dabble with, essentially gathering, building a database for
Sure.
restaurants. So yeah, but many chat is good for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that process right there that you just outlined is where a lot of restaurants are, I don't want to say failing, but they're not failing because they don't know. They don't know how to do it, right? They're not failing at it. They don't really understand. 90% of restaurants have a POS that will capture that customer information, but they don't really understand how to use it effectively on the back end to get that follow up to occur, right? I'm a strong believer that in 2026, having a good organized customer database is by far like one of the top things a restaurant can do outside of, getting your brand known on social media. Like, you have to have that customer database. You have to have that information, because in 2026, going into the AI stuff and everything like that, that's kind of what everything is going to rely on if you want to be pertinent.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. You definitely got to have that database built up, because you can't just be so heavily reliant on social media. With TikTok, we had the whole thing where they were talking about it was going to go away unless they sold it. They had to figure it out. And a lot of people were like panicking because a lot of their following and money was tied to TikTok just by posting the content. They're relying on TikTok, essentially to help promote their business organically by posting. So you don't have no email addresses, no cell phone. You don't essentially control any of that data. And so that's why it's important, because what happens if Facebook, Instagram, whatever, all these social media platforms just go away overnight? You don't have any way to interact with your
Mhm.
customer, and nobody's really going to the website to purchase things, so it's like through DoorDash and Uber Eats. And so It's like it's a big thing about just owning. You need to be like just like a restaurant is avid about like I own this restaurant. Like you have to own your database. That's where the money is at. Catering.
Yeah.
If you don't see any other value than building a database, then think of catering. And when you think of catering, you think of high ticket items. You think 5,000, 2,000, 10,000. A person coming to a restaurant may be $25. Person ordering a catering order may be 2,000. That's a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, dude. And so if I'm a restaurant and I have, let's just say I got 500 people in my database, right? And I want to get into the catering game, I can legitimately, on the push of a button, I can text message or email all 500 people and say, hey, I'm thinking about catering. I got a date open next month on Saturday. This is what I want to do. Is anybody interested in that? The chances that out of those 500 people, that a couple of them might want to do something for a holiday coming up. Those odds are fairly good, man. Those odds are fairly good that someone's going to bite on something, right? Even if it
Yeah.
ain't dollars, even if it's a few hundred, man. Those are the ways that you bring that revenue back in. So I'm glad you touched on that like that, because that's gold for restaurants right now. Gold for restaurants.
I collect email addresses like for myself. So as much as possible, I try to figure out ways to just collect that data. Like if you want to join my private Facebook group, I got to get your email address in order
That's
for you to
it.
get in there. But what happened was is so my wife, she does phenomenal at cooking barbecue. And so she was like, let's just go out and, let's just go out and do some barbecue. Let's just pop up and do something. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so one of the reasons why I was so quick to do it was because I knew that I have a database full of thousands of people that already follow me looking for good food. I hit them up. I made an email and I said, hey, look, this Saturday, me and my wife, we're doing a barbecue. We're going to be at this location. Please come and support if you can. We sold out within like an hour. Like majority of all the
That's
people that
it,
showed up was like, hey, we came because we got an
man.
email from Eager Local saying he's gonna be up and selling barbecue. I mean,
Bro.
having that
Yeah.
database is amazing. Like you losing
Marketing,
money.
bro, marketing 101. You just took everybody listening to this podcast down marketing 101 roadmap right there. Cause you don't, do you guys have like a barbecue restaurant, food truck, anything like that?
No, we don't have a restaurant or a food truck,
Nothing.
like nothing.
Not even known, not even known for that. Not even known for anything to
Not
do with
known
cooking food.
for it. Just known for the food reviews. But I think people trust my recommendations for the food.
That's
If I
it.
say like I'm gonna sell something, it's like, well, he 9 times out of 10, there's no way the guy's going to sell garbage if he does food reviews. And that's one thing I told my wife, I was like, man, this food got to be on point, because I'm like, people
Yeah.
gonna come and they gonna be disappointed,
Yeah.
if it's not good. So we had good portion sizes, we had affordable prices. You got a whole meal, you got the meat, you got a side, you got a dessert, and you got a drink, I think for like less than $20, and just utilize me as just like the influencer. Like, so when I got there, I made a video that day, like, hey, I'm live, this is what the food looking like, and it just sold out, like, and it went
Yeah.
pretty quick. And that happens with like a lot of restaurants, but you have to utilize social media and your email marketing and stuff correct.
Yes. And I'm going to recap that again because I want people to truly understand what my man just said here. The dude does not have a restaurant, does not have a food truck, doesn't have anything of that nature, but because he had a customer database and he has followers that knows that he likes food, he just emailed them and said, hey, my wife and I are going to sell some barbecue at this pop-up. Come and get it. And my man sold out. He didn't sit
Yeah.
there and wait for people to come. He didn't sit up on the side of the road and put up a sign. He used a customer database and sold out and doesn't even have a restaurant. Like, let
Yeah.
that sink in. If you're listening to this podcast right now, let that sink in what he just said, because that is amazing to me. And that is the concept right there that, man. So I don't know how much you follow our content, but I break down three things. There's three things for a restaurant. You have to acquire social trust.
Uh-huh.
You have to build brand identity, and you have to get customers in the door and keep them coming back. So we call it the ABCs. The A is acquire social trust, B is build brand identity, and C is get customers and get them to come back. And that short process that you did right there hit all of those wickets, and you reaped the rewards of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you, man. That's textbook. That's textbook right there.
Appreciate you.
Textbook.
But I mean, I got a bunch of books right here, you know, sitting on my desk. Like I read a bunch of Matt Platt stuff. I read
Yep,
I
I like
read
Matt.
I read I read. Like I don't own a restaurant, but I mean I work at restaurants, so it seems like it makes sense
That's
to
it.
try to study up on these different things, and so you learn it, you try it. But like Matt Platt said, he's not too long ago. He said, "Man, I'm gonna, you know." He said he's either gonna buy a restaurant or go in with a business partner on a restaurant just so he can implement the marketing techniques that he teach and talks about on his podcast. You
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
and that's why I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of restaurants, food truck owners, they get stuck and they just don't try. They just don't try the different things, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not really that hard. It seems hard. Anything honestly is hard if you haven't done it before. You make some killer barbecue, but before you know made that good brisket, you didn't know what the heck you was doing, what seasons you was putting on there. You had to try it, you know, and the
Yeah.
more you practice at it, the better you become. You know, what they say, repetition is the father of learning. You know, so
Yes.
the more you do it, the better you get. And then I think you just have to tell yourself, look, I ain't got the time. I don't care to know it. Don't want to know it. Maybe I want to know a little bit about it, just enough to know if I'm getting played or not getting played, that sort of thing. But I think I'm gonna just hire somebody else to do it because I don't really have time for it. And I think that's where it falls. Either you gonna do it yourself or you just gonna hire somebody else to do it and just bite the bullet. And you know, it ain't no in between.
So we build growth systems for restaurants. We automate the review process. We give you a social media calendar and strategy, and then we implement SMS and email automations to get customers to come back once you get them in the door. The same thing that you just talked about are the systems that we implement for restaurants. And one of the biggest things that I noticed that you kind of touched on right there is that so many restaurant and food truck owners just give up too quickly. Like they don't stick with something. And it's like you got to understand that if you're in Major League Baseball, if I'm a professional league Major League Baseball player getting paid millions of dollars to hit a baseball, if I hit the baseball 3 out of 10 times that I'm at bat, I'm in the Hall of Fame. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
If I got 300 batting average, I'm probably going to the Hall of Fame because that's a damn good batting average to carry over the course of a career. And I see restaurants all the time that will try something like, Facebook ads or, this social media or, customer database. Well, we tried that and it doesn't work. Well, what did you do? Oh, well, we did this. We put up a QR code and no one clicked it. Well, you gotta keep going up to the plate and taking swings, man. Like you said in that repetition, because people just give up too quickly. And I always feel, so, I don't want to say I feel bad for people, but it discourages me when I talk to restaurant owners,
Yeah.
just give up too quickly because every restaurant owner that started this, they've had a dream. Like they have a dream of a business. They want to own a business. They don't want to own a job. And the restaurant industry is tough, man.
Yeah, it definitely is. Um, I think that's why you got to have a heart to like essentially like serve people and want to put out a good product. I think the money will come if you essentially just focus on having a good quality product. Now you don't have to have a big menu. And honestly, I'm not a fan of restaurants to have a big menu. I honestly think like, what are you
Yeah.
hiding? Because I won't say hiding, but it's like you got 200 menu items on here. There's no way that all of them is good. Out of 200, maybe 5, 10 of them is good, but not every single one of them. So let's get rid of some of those things that's not
Yeah.
selling.
Well, and restaurant owners, like, we're very stingy too, man. Like, we'll keep shit on the menu just because I like it. As the owner, I like it, right? Well, how many of you sold in the last month? Two, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm on board with that 110%, man. It's a tough nut to crack. I think restaurants are. I think people have a false sense of restaurants. Even food trucks. You know, people see food trucks that go out and sit up for 5 hours, and they're like, "Oh, that dude just made 2 grand." Well, what you don't see is the 5 hours of prep time. What you don't see is the 3 hours of cleanup time. So that 5 hour window that you know he made 2 G's was a 13-hour day, plus that 2 G's cuts into his overhead, plus he's got to pay DoorDash 20 or 30%, plus, you know, there's so
Yeah,
many things that nitpick at it, that profit margin isn't what you think it is in a restaurant and food truck.
yeah, yeah,
And that,
yeah. Unfortunately, the profit margins are definitely thin when it comes to restaurants. Like, and I kind of wish that was one of the things that would be explained to me from a business aspect. It's like the margins are kind of thin when working with them, so you may not be able to get the type of money you are looking for.
that's it.
But I was just passionate about, the same way owners are passionate about their food. I'm passionate about eating. If you passionate about cooking it,
That's it.
I'm passionate about putting it in my mouth.
Yeah, man. And passion drives a long way. So like with what we do, we kind of implement for any type of service-based or hospitality business, but we go with restaurants and food trucks specifically because that's where my passion is, man. Especially being in the game and having the restaurant, the food truck, the catering company through the pandemic, all of that good jazz. Like I was in the weeds. Like I know what it takes, and I know restaurant, like, and not just restaurant owners. I'm not going to quantify that. Any business owner is always going to stand up and talk good about their business. If you hear a business owner talking down on how their business is, they're really in the weeds because everybody wants to portray their business in a good light, right?
Right.
The difference with a restaurant as compared to so let's think of a service, like if I'm a roofer and I roof houses, right? I might have 1 to 4 to 5 to 6 clients a month, right? That I got to deal with. Man, there's restaurants that are dealing with 1,000 people a day, and you got to
Yeah.
keep 1,000 people a day happy, and that wears on you. That wears on you as a person, that wears on you as a business, that wears on you all the way around. And what you said a few minutes ago about the way that I word it is, before you're going to grade the test, you have to know you can't grade. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You can't grade the test if you haven't done the homework, right?
Mhm.
So if you're going to hire somebody and you're going to trust them to come into your business and move your bottom line when you have on average a 6% profit margin, you better know how to double check that person so you're not just throwing money at the wind, because there are a lot of misinformed type of marketers that are going on right now, and most restaurant owners have been burned by one, if not two of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely. Yeah.
it's a tough game, man.
Yeah.
It's a very tough
It
game.
is. Yeah.
No, you're good, bro. You're good. If you could talk to restaurant owners in general and you could say that you think, social media wise, marketing wise, whatever, it doesn't even have to be that. Anything whatsoever under the sun. If there's something that you think they should fix in 2026, what do you think that is?
Man, I feel like I'm starting to sound like a broken record at this point because the biggest thing, man, is just systems. And the reason why I say that is because I have gone and worked with so many restaurants over the last few years, and I have just seen how they just don't have the system in place and how it just hurts them. And I give you an example is this one restaurant that I was working with, and they have a drive-through, and part of the problem with the drive-through is that the speaker doesn't work correctly. I mean, so you have to pull it up to the window, and then the person working has to come to the window, take the order. But since the speaker doesn't work, and what I'm saying, it seems like it's just common sense. Like, well, just have somebody stand at the window, take the order, or whatever. Unfortunately, that's not the
Doesn't work.
case, right? It doesn't work like that, like because you have
Hmm.
to have the right people in place. A lot of times, employees they just on their phone, they not trained properly, and so you get the people to come to the restaurant. So the example is I made a video for the restaurant on how to not how to drive through works, but they was running a drive through special because people wasn't they was losing business through the drive through. I created a video to help get business to the drive through. I get the business to the drive through, and nobody's in the drive through window to take the order. So you completely missed the whole purpose. And I have people contacting me like, "Hey man, I just seen your video," and the funny thing, and it was only a small window for you to come and get like the special, like it was a crazy deal that if you came through the drive-through that you would get a good offer. I forget what the offer was because you got to have offers so good, make people feel stupid for, not taking you up on it. So it was one of those type of offers. We get the people to drive to the window, but we don't have anybody at the restaurant to take the order. And so people left the restaurant, and it happened so many times. And it boils down to just not having a system in place, even if it's just something as simple as stay in the window, right? When take their order, once you get their order, give them a sticky note, a sticker, or something to put on the window, have them pull forward, and then we take the next order. They order ready, take it out to the car, repeat the process. Simple enough. A lot of times it's kind of straightforward and it's simple. Create the plan, put it on paper, relay that information to the manager, and make sure everybody is trained. Run the plan, and just know we gonna have some hiccups. Be observant, catch the hiccups, fix the hiccups, re-implement it. And but some restaurants is not as straightforward as you would think. And like I looked at McDonald's and Burger King's and like just franchises in general, they have systems in place. That's how they're able to serve so many people. I tell small moms and pop restaurants, look, customer service is like the biggest thing within the industry. So if you know you haven't spent any money, time, training on customer service, I think the best thing for you to do is hire somebody who used to work at Chick-fil-A or Starbucks, because Chick-fil-A and Starbucks have some exceptional training program, especially Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A, they won't even hire you unless you meet like a certain requirement in terms of like hospitality and how you treat people. In other words, you have to already be a good, kind of nice individual. They're not hiring somebody who's a-hole pretending to be a nice person. That's not gonna work. So it's little things like that. And a lot of restaurants like, I never really thought about that.
Yeah,
But
man. Yeah. Just like you said before, it amplified an issue and it just made the issue worse, right? And I tell people the exact same thing you do when it comes to chain restaurants, fast food chains, even just like Applebee's, things of that nature. I tell restaurants, watch what they are doing. These people pay people millions of dollars a year to figure out what's working, to advertise the right way, to get in front of the attention of people in the ways that they know is going to work. So if they're advertising things a certain way, mimic it. If they're implementing certain systems, mimic it. Watch what they're doing, because they pay millions of dollars to be able to do that. And on the flip side, what's even better is if you can get a restaurant that understands and starts learning how to mimic those corporate models, you can actually get in front of things before the corporate model does. Because if you and I own a restaurant together, right, and we decide, hey, there's this new thing coming up, we might want to try this, Doug and Cory can go, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. Whereas corporate, they got to sit through fucking meetings in boardrooms, and have votes, and then have a survey, and it's going to take them a month or two to implement trends or things that are working. Whereas a mom and pops, if you're paying attention, you can guide your restaurant well before they're doing it and be ahead of the game. So definitely some advantages to that. I think people just lose sight of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. By being a mom and pop, so many more advantages than a huge franchise. Like you say, you can implement what you see immediately, and sometimes you have to act on it right then and there within like the next day or two, or the momentum is gone. So yeah.
But man, I love the time that we had here to chop this up, man. I think you bring a lot of amazing relevance. Like I told you in the beginning, there's two things that I tell people that they can do for restaurants that will help restaurants the best. The number one thing is Google reviews, and the number two thing, I won't even say they're number one or number two, it's just the two things. It ain't like one's better than the other, but Google reviews as well as doing what you do and getting a video out there, tagging the restaurant and putting some emphasis behind what that restaurant does. Because with the way that the AI search is coming in, that's what AI is looking for. They're looking for reviews and they're looking
Yeah.
for people talking about you, people
Yeah.
outside of your walls that are talking about you. So I want to give you mad props, bro, because what you're doing for restaurants is absolutely beneficial, absolutely helpful, and more restaurants absolutely need to take advantages of what you do and your services. So, with that being said, if there's people that want to shout you out, hook you up, look into you, work with you, how can people find you, man?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and it's all under Eat Good Local. So just how it sounds, eat like EAT, good GOOD, then local LOCAL local. Same with the email eatgoodlocal.com. So
You have a
everything is really
website also?
yeah, I have a website, but it kind of just goes to like this link tree kind of thing. So I mean, it'll just funnel you to what you're trying to do. Yeah, so you best way is email or DM. So
And what's your main geographical location that you like to focus on? Do you have one? Are you willing to travel far, or do you just
man, I'll travel anywhere. That's why I don't say
That's
like
what's up.
eat good local South Bend, eat good South Bend. That's why it's eat good local. Cause I say we you know we can eat good local anywhere. Local is anywhere. So yeah, but I'm really based in like the South Bend, Elkhart, Indiana area. I honestly I travel anywhere car wise, 3 5 hours. Anything over that we gonna have to fly. But yeah, though, if you got good food, I don't care where you're at. I'm coming. If you want me, I want you. That's how I'm gonna say it.
That's it. If you want me, I want you. I like it. I
Yeah,
like that right there. If you want me, I want you. Well, that's good,
yeah.
man. Well, next time I come through South Bend, I'm going to hit you up so we can chop it up in person and get a bite to eat. Let's do a solid real quick. I don't let's do a solid. Let's talk about if you just the I'm not going to say top 3 cuz I don't want to quantify it or put those words, but give me 3 decent solid restaurants within that South Bend, Elkhart, Indiana area that are on your radar right now that people need to check out.
Dag that they need to check out.
That people
Dag.
need to check out. 3 of them. 3 of them. Put your reputation on the line, bro.
My reputation on the
Put your
line.
reputation on the
You
line. What 3?
going
What 3 am I
crazy with
going to?
that one. I'm gonna have to say right now for tacos in special place, but if you just want some good tacos, it's a place called Tampico's Mexican Grill. The especially the and I'm gonna be specific. I'm gonna say the steak tacos, really good.
Hell yeah.
For pizza, I like Nardo's Pizza, um, out in St. Joseph, Michigan. They do like a Detroit style pizza. They are pretty solid. I guess like ooh, man, it's crazy, but I guess like for like if you want like good steak, one of the best places I've been to was 523 Tap and Grill. That's downtown Elkhart. The pork chop was good, the steak was good, the size was good, the water was good. I even think the napkin was good.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great. I
So
actually
yeah,
spend most of my summers in Michigan, so I'll be up that way
yeah,
again. I'll be up there in May, so I'm gonna check out Saint Joseph. You said Nardo's in Saint Joseph.
yeah,
Uh,
Nardo's.
I'll definitely be through there and check that out.
People either talk about Silver Beach Pizza. I haven't tried them, but the reviews is kind of hit and miss. But Nardo's, like every time we go to the beach, we got to get a pie from him before we go. Like I really like him, and I think one of the reasons why I like him so much because he reached out to me. Because I don't know everything about food. I just know if something tastes good or not to me. I'm not like
That's it.
no world renowned chef. But he was like, man, that pizza place you went to, that wasn't no real butter. I was like, that ain't real butter. What the heck I was eating there? He was like, you need to come to my place. I'm gonna show you what pizza is. So I came on over to his spot, and I wasn't disappointed. So every time I
Hell
think
yeah.
of pizza, he's pretty. And don't get me wrong, there's other places, but Like when I get asked this type of question, I always bring his name up. He's pretty solid.
I love that. I love that. And Detroit style is the way to go for me, man. I love Detroit style pizza.
Oh, well, you
That's
go
it.
love this dish. He go crazy
Man,
with it.
I'm in. I'm
My
in.
back getting wet right now thinking about it.
Well, when I come back up there, it's probably I'm anticipating right now, probably around May timeframe. I'm gonna hit you up. We'll go hit up Nardo's, man. I'd
Okay,
love that.
bet. Sounds
I
good.
love that. Is there anything that we haven't discussed here today that you think is important for people to hear from you?
You asked a question. I forget how to phrase it, but more or less maybe something what restaurants probably shouldn't do in 2026 or something like that. I forget exactly how you phrased the question.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, though, I would, especially mom and pop restaurants, if you own a restaurant on your restaurant page, let's please keep it to the food. We don't want to see pictures of your dogs, your cats, while they probably a good dog and cat. We only want to see the food. So like and we just talk about mom and pop restaurants because I get that a lot. You go to their page and it's like, why is the first picture of your dog? Or like let's see the food. So more emphasis on food, less on, working out and stuff. Like some owners, they be posting that they work out and stuff. And it's like, tell me how you working out in the gym is going to convince me to come order, the prime rib with mashed potatoes and gravy.
Yeah, dude. Hey, those are usually the same restaurant Facebook pages that you got to add them as a friend. You can't just follow them.
Right.
Well, hey, I gotta have I was gonna ask, right? I gotta have you throw the tagline in at the end of the podcast, man. I gotta have you do it. Real eat good local style. Let's get it.
The eat good local style. Hey.
Fly.
If you're looking for a good podcast that's got all of the information that you need to make an informed decision on how to grow your restaurant, possibly find out some good places to eat, the Digital Chef is the perfect place for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You got to slide on in on them.
Yeah, got to slide on in there. So, yeah.
Hey, Cory, I appreciate you so much, bro, man. I love you taking time out of your busy day to chop it up with us. I'm going to be following your content much more diligently, even though I already do. I'm even more diligently. I look forward to all the big things you do. And also, I just want to say thank you for what you do for restaurants, because regardless, I know sometimes it may not feel like it to a lot of people, but you're making a difference, bro. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well.
All right, man. We'll holler at you soon.